How did Apple reduce its global taxes using an Irish structure? To understand this, you'll need a basic understanding of corporate taxation. A company pays taxes based on where it's located, where its employees are located, and where its profits are made, also known as tax residency. For example, a US tax resident company is liable for taxes in the United States, while an Irish tax resident company will need to pay taxes in Ireland. Simple enough? Well, let's add one layer of complexity. What happens if the Irish company is a subsidiary of the US corporation, which effectively means that the US company controls and owns the Irish company? Does Uncle Sam get a cut of the Irish profit? Yes, but only when the company sends the cash back to the US. Now that's interesting. Can a company decide to never bring the cash back and defer US corporate taxes forever? Why do you think Apple kept so much cash in Ireland? Just a quick side note. This was true until 2017, before the new rules were introduced by this man. Today, unrepatriated profits can still be taxed in the US. Now back to the video. Now that you understand how taxes work, let's take a look at why Ireland. Is it for the potatoes, cows, or drinks? Well, none of the above. The Irish corporate tax rate is 12.5%. For comparison, the US federal rate is at 21%, and our friends in Australia charge 30%.
Ireland has had a long-standing reputation of heavily favoring corporations. In fact, it was once called a tax haven by the US Internal Revenue Service. And over the years, many international companies have decided to set up operations in Ireland due to its highly accommodative corporate tax and economic policies. But if you ask them, many companies will probably deny that establishing an Irish company was motivated by tax savings. But now you know why.
Now that we know which country to pick, the next question is, how? Hey, got an idea. What's up? Why don't we have a subsidiary set up in Ireland and run all Apple sales outside of North America through this subsidiary? That way, the profits earned from these sales would be taxable at 12.5% rather than 21% in the US. That would be a huge tax savings.
Not bad, but I think we can do better. How about 0%? Before 2014, a company could be considered a non-tax resident of Ireland if it is centrally managed and controlled outside of Ireland, even where the company is legally registered in the country. So instead of designating Irish individuals as directors of the Irish subsidiary, Apple set up the company with US-based director to meet the definition of managed and controlled outside of Ireland. This means that earnings from the Irish subsidiary would not be taxed in Ireland, and the US would also not be able to tax these profits until they are ultimately repatriated. The European Commission referred to this entity as stateless for residency purposes. Now that's pretty clever. Now you may be wondering, that cannot be right, can it? Well, this certainly attracted a lot of attention, including that of the US Senate and the European Commission. In fact, starting from 2014, the European Commission initiated a probe into Apple's arrangement with Ireland. Surprisingly, the residency issue, which arguably is the more offensive matter, was not challenged. And this is likely because Apple's structure was perfectly legal and well within the Irish tax rules. So instead, the European Commission's focus was on a very specific issue that probably deserves a whole video on its own. In 2020, the European Commission's tax decision was ultimately struck down by the General Court, ruling in favor of Apple. The European Commission has appealed the decision and the outcome is yet to be determined. But it is not uncommon for multinational companies to take advantage of the hybridity and mismatch between different countries' tax law to achieve a lower global effective tax rate. While tax evasion is illegal and could result in jail time, tax avoidance is perfectly legal. And what these multinational companies are doing is simply practicing some form of tax avoidance.
Let me know if you think this is fair in the comment section below. Please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with a friend. This will let me know if I should continue to make these type of videos. See you in the next one. Maybe.